Hello everyone, this is Training and AutoML Working Group Community Call on 2nd of October. Welcome everyone. This meeting will be recorded and published on YouTube, and this meeting is governed by the Kubeflow Code of Conduct. Maybe we can start this call with a quick introduction. Do we have anyone here on the call who just want to introduce themselves to the community? Any new people here on the call?
Hey, yeah, I'm new here. My name is Ricardo. Give me 1 second. There we go. Hey, everyone, Ricardo. First time joining this call. I'm here with a couple teammates. Just looking to get some information and see what these meetings are about, and also potentially contribute a fix that we see in the training operator.
Thanks, Ricardo. Are you using Kubeflow right now, or you're just trying to, explore different projects within the ecosystem?
Yeah, we use Kubeflow right now. And Andre, we met virtually a few months back. You helped us out with an OSS contribution workshop that we did with the MLOps community in New York.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So no, if you remember from that, but yeah, we use Kubeflow now.
That's to see, Ricardo. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to say hello?
Yeah. Hi. My name is Wei Chen, and I'm from Bloomberg. We are now currently using Training Operator and are exploring for Training Operator V2. So I came to look into it.
Thank you, Vlad. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you here.
I'm Tara. I'm also one of Ricardo's teammates, just coming to see what this is about and to hopefully contribute back.
Tara. Anyone else want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Alina. I'm the third teammate here from Capital One with Tara and Ricardo.
Nice to see you, Alina.
Hey everyone, I'm Ishan. I'm from Gap, and we're exploring Kubeflow right now. And I saw this in the Slack and just thought I'd pop in and see what it's about. So excited to see. Thanks everyone.
Nice to see you here. Did you use it before, or just trying to explore different tools within the ecosystem as well?
I have not used it before, but we do want to use it going forward at Gap. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks for joining. All right. Anyone else before we can get started? All right, so we have a few things today in the agenda. I think, first of all, Helen will give a demo, and then I think we'll have a discussion around V2, APIs, and also roadmap. Then we have time, and also the discussion about 1.10, the release of Kubeflow, what we're going to deliver for training operator and KT projects. So with that, maybe, Helen, I can just, you can share your screen, just move forward with the presentation, and then we can jump to the other points on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Hello, everyone. I'm Helen. This summer, I had the opportunity to work on developing a large language model hyperparameter optimization API in Katib with guidance from my mentors, especially Andre. Just to clarify, this API is specifically for hyperparameter optimization. It doesn't cover neural architecture search. Today, I'm excited to share my work with all of you, and I look forward to your feedback or suggestions. Before we dive in, since the demo will need about 15 minutes to complete, so let me quickly start it. I wanted to run in the background so we won't have to wait. Okay, here we are. Let's come back to the slides. First, I want to start with some background on the project. Katib already offers a Tune API within its Python SDK, which automatically optimizes hyperparameters for user-defined objective function. You can see a use example of it on the right. But with the growing importance of LLMs, we saw the need to extend the Tune API to support hyperparameter optimization for LLMs as well. This would simplify the process by abstracting away the complexity of Kubernetes infrastructure, allowing data scientists to focus on improving their models rather than system configuration. Fortunately, we have a good starting point. Thanks to the existing train API within the training operators SDK, which simplifies the fine-tuning of LLMs using distributed PyTorch workers. As you can see in this figure, users set parameters like model, dataset, and trainer parameters in the train API. Then it is using the PyTorch job for distributed training, and the storage initializer downloads models and datasets from external platforms like Hugging Face and S3, and share them with all the workers to avoid redundant downloads. So instead of starting from scratch, we reuse the key components from the train API, like the storage initializer and the PyTorch job, to enhance the Tune API. So now let me show you the design of the Tune API. Let me introduce the workflow. First, the users need to provide inputs like the model, dataset, trainer parameters, objective metric and goal, search algorithm, resources per trial, and other settings. And then the Tune API will create an experiment containing multiple trials, each trial corresponding to a PyTorch job. These trials run training with different hyperparameters values generated by the suggestion service. And after execution, the results are collected and the best hyperparameter value is identified. And with the integration of storage initializer and the PyTorch job, it allows users to download models and datasets from external platforms and perform distributed training across multiple nodes. By leveraging these existing components, we can scale and speed up the training process for LLMs. And next, I want to show you the use example of this Tune API and the demo. First, users now have two options. We keep the previous option that user can define their own objective function. And now we offer another option is that user can optimize hyperparameters for LLMs with models and datasets from external platforms. It's important to note that configure the correct parameters for each option, as incorrect settings will result in errors. And we aim to make the experience consistent as enough between using the Train API for fine-tuning LLMs and using Tune API for hyperparameter optimizations in LLMs. So here are two use examples of the Train API and Tune API separately. You can see the input parameters for these two APIs are nearly identical. The model provider parameters, dataset provider parameters are the same. You don't need to change that. And the trainer parameters are nearly the same, but you need to set the search space for hyperparameter that you want to optimize. Here, since we want to optimize the learning rate and are in lower config, so you can see we search the space for these two parameters. And in Tune API, you need to also set some parameters that specifically for hyperparameter optimization, like the objective matrix name, objective type, and so on. And one small difference between the Train API and Tune API is about the setting of resources. So in Tune API, we use resources per trial to define the resources for each trial. And here we define a new class, which is trainer resources for distributed training. But inside the trainer resources, it's the same as in train API. You can define the number of workers, the number processed per worker, and resources per worker. So now, now let's look at the demo. Hopefully it has already finished a trial. Yeah, we can see that the, sorry, let me go from the demo from the start. So in order to use the Tune API, first we need to do some setup. We need to set up the cluster. We need to install the cat-tip and training operator control planes. And we also need to install the cat-tip Python SDK with extra requires. Then we can start use the Tune API. Since we have, I have already done the above steps, so we can directly dive into the test part. So here is my demo code. First, we need to import some important packages for the test, and then inside the Tune API, we need to first provide the model provider parameters. Here we use the BERT model to show the test. And next, we need to define the data set, which we use the Yelp data set for the demo. And then for the trainer parameters, you can define the parameters for the fine tuning. And here, since we want to optimize learning rate and are in neural config, so we set a search space for these two parameters. And in this experiment, I want to minimize the train loss and use random algorithm. And I want to run 3 trials, 1 parallel trial. And since I run this experiment on my local machine, which means I only have 1 node, so I set the number of workers as 1 and number processes per worker as 1. And I set 2 CPUs and 10 gigabytes of memory to run this experiment. And the retain trails mean that if you don't set it, when the experiment completed, it will delete the experiment and the trials as default. But in order to like show you the trials at the experiment has finished, so I set these parameters as true. And then we can wait for the experiment conditions and get the optimal hyperparameters for this experiment. And then and now we can check the result for the experiment. So the experiment is still running, but since they are like 3 trials, so it shows that there are already 2 succeeded trials and one trial is still running. So you can check the status of the trials here, and you can also check the values of the matrix. Here is the training loss, and we can also check the values of the parameters that we want to optimize here. What's the best values for them? So we can check the status of the experiment. Also inside this notebook, we can use this command to get the trials now. Oh, sorry, since the experiment is still running, so I cannot run this command, but maybe I can run it in my terminal. Please wait a moment. So let's get the trials first. So here the name for the experiment is Tune demo. And you can see that 2 of the trials have succeeded and 1 is running. And since each trial corresponds to 1 PyTorch job, we can also check the status of PyTorch job as well. So here you can see, now the 3 trials have all succeeded and the corresponding PyTorch job has also succeeded. And we can also like check the pods. Each pod corresponds to a trial. Yeah, so you can see the 3 pods have succeeded. And if you want to like check the detailed logs of the trial, you can describe the pod. To say what happens inside this pod, and you can also check logs. To see the logs of training here. So this is a method of checking the status of experiment from the terminal, from the command. The cattip also offers a UI interference that you can check the status of experiment. So here is the UI of cattip. Let me search the let me select the namespace first, and here is our experiment 2 demo. You can see there are 3 trials, and we can see the value of the learning rate and R separately, and the corresponding training loss. We can also like through this place to check the status of each trial, and click into it. We can see the details of the trial. Since for each trial we only get 1 training loss for the metric, so here is only a single point. And we can see that the status of the trial shows it has succeeded, and the job message showed that the PyTorch job has also completed. So this is a demo of this Tune API. Let's come back to the slides. And next, I want to talk about some feature work of this Tune API. Since this API is still in the alpha stage, so we still have a lot of work to do. We want to add support for custom metrics. Now it only supports training loss, and we want to enable distributed training for user-defined objective functions. We want to incorporate hyper optimization for model and dataset parameters, and we want to add support for more frameworks such as Jack job, TF job, and MPI job. And here is my project summary. So during this summer about the API development, it can primarily divided into 3 stages: prepare, development, and wrap up. And I have created 5 PRs for the API development. Now the unit test and end-to-end test of this Tune API is still under reviewed. After they are completed, I will write the documentation for this API to provide some user instructions. And during this summer, I also do some bug fixes and create some new features for both cattip and the training SDK. So I created 6 other PRs for this. If you are interested, you can check the detail of my work from this link. So that's all. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any suggestions or problems.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. I think this is amazing. Thank you so much for the demo and for the presentation. Any questions from the community?
Thanks, Helen. Great demo.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing. This was really cool. I had a small question. So for
Yeah.
the trainer resources part, how configurable are the resources there? Like, would it be possible if we wanted to run on, for example, like add a specific node selector or tolerations to run on specific nodes? Is it possible to pass those values in through trainer resources?
I think now we don't support that kind of functionality. Now we only support like set the number of workers the number processed per worker and resources per worker. But we don't support like if you want to specify a specific node for what kind of work. We haven't included that, but maybe we can consider add that functionality in the future.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I think just to add on this, I think it's an interesting question, Lana. I think we have the same kind of experience in Train API right now. I think like the point is what functionality we want to give to data scientists or ML engineer, because usually they don't really aware of how to specify those complex Kubernetes properties like tolerations and node selectors, right? That is why we try to see how we can provide simple interfaces and at the same time give enough flexibility. So from your kind of past experience, do you think that actually users of those Python SDK could actually specify those parameters, or it should be part of orchestration pipeline, for example, like mutation webhook or any other part of your orchestration during the experiment creation?
Yeah, that is a good point. I definitely agree that something like a particular toleration or something would make more sense for us to do on the back end. But I guess I'm also thinking like maybe, for example, a specific GPU type, that might be something that the data scientists would want to configure. Also not sure about if the image can be specified here.
Oh, you mean the image for the
PyTorch jobs.
PyTorch jobs?
Yeah, I think that, yeah. Go ahead, Helen. Good.
Yeah, I think now that part cannot be configured because we have a trainer image for conducting the a training process, and that part is specified in the training operator side. So yeah, Andrew, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so basically on the slide number 3, as Helen showed, like this is the basically like high level architecture of the train API. So the main idea is to even not allow user to set the image. So we kind of like create this fine-tuning loop for the user, and user just pass the data set they want to use, the model they want to pre-train model they want to use, and the trainer parameters like LoRa config or other trainer configuration like number of epochs or other hyperparameters. So this API is even more abstracted from the user. So they can use it to do the quickly fine-tuning, right? Or in this specific example, they can also optimize the hyperparameters using a tip, right? Because yeah, go ahead, John.
No. So yeah, please complete, Andre. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. So again, like if you zoom in here a little bit, as you can see on every worker, we have this LLM trainer container, which we kind of like pre-created for the user. And this also could be customizable for different use cases. For example, imagine you have a team of data scientists, and they're usually using the same fine-tuning script for every type of model they want to, fine-tune. We have a use cases when actually, data scientists, they want to have more control. Like, for example, they want to modify a number of layers, or maybe they want to get the specific, modify the specific layer of your model. So for that kind of power user, we want to see how we can give them more flexibility, but at the same time, give them a quick ability to fine-tune their favorite LLMs, right? So we're just looking for different ways how to give flexibility, but at the same time, give a simple APIs to quickly do the fine-tuning on Kubernetes, right?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Thank you. I think it is really nice that the API interface is very simple and straightforward. I think yeah, probably like we work on the platform team at Capital One and specifically on the Gen AI platform. So I think we would have a lot of customers that would be interested in using this. So I'm just trying to think about how we can make sure we could potentially make use of this, because there are some things, for example, like the image, like we would have to make sure we have an internal Capital One version to be allowed to use it. So maybe if some of those parameters were even configurable on the back end, on the deployment side.
I think we already, so yeah, I know we already have done some of these parameters configurable, like as environment variables. I think we've done some work with some folks from Red Hat to allows you to specify some custom storage initializer and custom trainer So as you said, for example, maybe you as a platform engineer can prepare some images your data scientists want to use, and then you could just bypass it by environment variables when you're installing your SDK. So this is possible. But we're really looking for different feedback, especially from like platform engineers, what kind of function, like what kind of flexibility you want to have here. Yep.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll look into the docs a bit more. Thanks.
John,
Yeah,
do you
I
want
think,
to something?
yeah.
Yeah, go. John.
Yeah. So I think that's a very good feedback. So I think it is good to have both of these personas here. So just want to highlight that the train AP and tune AP is primarily for the data scientist persona, while for platforms, because the more we complicate it, we are basically moving away from the data scientist easiness perspective. But I think your point on specifying GPU is actually a good idea, but we will see how we can integrate that, because that's something that people generally try, even from a data scientist, so that they can try to fit in what type of models, etc., depending on the GPU type. But tolerations, etc., like without bringing complex Kubernetes APIs, we have to think what is the right abstraction that we have to bring in from an API perspective. But from a platform side, I think please take a look at that. The train V2, all the tolerations, etc., are already exposed, right? And that is primarily for the platform side of things, where all these requirements that you have talked about are configurable already.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions from the community on the presentation? I just maybe have a small question. So I'm just like wondering, Helen, from your past experience looking at project like a TIP or training operator, what is you think like the most challenging part for you to explore it?
I think for me, the most challenging part is to get started, because previously I was not familiar with Kubernetes and Docker, so it took me a lot of time to dive into the documentation part and know how to get started. And I think the some of the documentation maybe is not so detailed, so sometimes it take me some time to find out how to do that. And
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think we need to do some work to see how we can improve those docs, especially for contributors who are not familiar with Kubernetes, because it's very complex tool, and how we can teach, MLOps part with Kubernetes is even more complex. So yeah, let's definitely, if you think we should improve some of their onboarding guides, let's definitely follow up on this. We'll try to see how we can improve the onboarding experience.
yes, would be great.
Yeah, I think this API we will try to release it as part of the next KTIP release, which will be, I think, 0.18. Yes, next release. And I think this API will still be in an alpha stage, but I think the main idea is that we really want to keep experience consistent, as Helen mentioned. Like, we want to see how we can give you the old plumbing for training, tuning, model optimization without really exploring different APIs. Because I understand that, especially for new users, like looking for PyTorch job, customers also looking for kind of experiment. Right now, it is very confusing, because we have a different APIs for different stage in the ML lifecycle. So at least for tuning and training, we just try to see how we can unify and simplify it for the data scientists and ML engineers. Right.
Yeah.
Any last questions, comments, so we can move on? All right. Thank you so much, Helen, for your presentation. It was great. Really exciting to give this to all of our users so they can try out. Yeah, and I really want to especially give a feedback from the users by using this API, because train also new API for us, and we try to see how we can explore, use it for other models and support more advanced foundational models in Kubeflow. All right, so with that, let me maybe share my screen and maybe we can go quickly to the other items. 1 second. All right, so I think before we jump to this V2 discussion and roadmap for 2024, so I know, Salish, you want to have a discussion about 1.10, right?
Yeah.
Any specific questions you want to ask from us?
Yeah. So there are 2-3 points. Can I present my screen?
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. 1 second. Is my screen visible?
Yep, yeah, we can see.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. My name is Sailesh. I'm acting as the liaison for the AutoML and training operator working group for the Kubeflow release 1.10. Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to run by the working group is that this is the proposed schedule for the release cycle, and we just wanted your the working group's thoughts on this. If there's any objections or any comments.
I think for me, so the feature freeze is January 13th, right?
Yeah, there was a small change last Kubeflow.
So for me, it looks good. I think for KTIP, we almost deliver all the features already. So for example, push batch metrics, this tuning API, also we have the distribution support from Sandipan. Also we have, yes, and for KTIP, I think almost done. I probably do some development, but not a lot before January. Training operator, Yuki, Johnny, you are here. I think we have plans before the KubeCon to deliver a new like alpha version of V2 APIs. Do we think that January 13th for us, it looks good? For training operator, I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it is fine. The thing is, people might on vacation, right? And they'll be back only by first week or second week of Jan in general. So that's where that Jan 30th looks little uh, tight, in my opinion. If it was pushed by a week or so, I think it would have been great, is what I feel.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, maybe make it like slightly delayed from the holidays would be better.
Yeah, a week or two would be the best, in my opinion.
Yes, makes sense. I'll bring it up in the next meeting. All right. Any other comments on the schedule?
Yeah, also, I think I already told to Ricardo, but I have slightly been concerned that we have 2 weeks of manifest syncs, given that manifest has already all the E2Es been in place. But I think it's more question to release team. I don't know if we need 2 weeks for manifest syncing, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's conversation about this on Monday sometime. Again.
Okay. See, gotcha.
Yeah.
The next thing I wanted to ask is, so what are the expected release versions for the AutoML Cat and training operator for the V10 version of Kubeflow?
Yeah, so for Kade, we definitely release 0.18. So for training operator, I want to hear your thoughts, Yuki, Jono. What do you think about the release and what we should do given the V2 development?
Maybe we want to release next training operator version before we promote this API version to next Kubeflow 1.10 version. So I meant we maybe want to include the training operator. What is the current version?
Yeah, you mean making maybe 1.9 release, right? With the
So I meant maybe we want to include training operator 1.10 version in the next Kubeflow version. So in other words, so we may release the next training operator version before the KubeCon. And after KubeCon, we may release a new training operator version 1.10 after the next version. Yeah,
Yeah.
but so I'm not sure if we can release separate version.
Don't you think that we should release 2.0 when we making this API available? Because we can make the release 2.0, right, of training operator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
Yeah.
for 2.0, are we planning to have both of them together?
Yeah, we have an ability to deploy two operators together. We have
Right, but for 2.0, do we want, isn't it better to switch to one, the newer one?
No, we want to keep for at least two releases the last version because migration takes time, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, maybe both B1 and B2 API version are supported 1 year or 1.5 year, something like yeah.
Yeah, I think we want to, so once we have this V2 version ready, we want to install training operator V1 and V2 all together on the cluster within the Kubeflow manifest. And that will be like maybe for a year and a half. So people can easily migrate, right, to the new API. And then they can also try out the new version if they want, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So I think my only question is, do we want to have a 2.0 release of the repo, right? Of training operator repo?
Yeah.
Good
question. Yeah. Yeah, so ideally, so we want to cut B 2.0 version and 1.9 version together. But so I think so we can release B2 version separate from B1 version. So
I think it will be tricky because we're managing the single repo and the single branch, right? So I mean,
Yeah, so like same question, Yuki. So I didn't get that part. So are you saying a separate release for B1 and B2? Like I didn't get that part.
yeah, actually, so if we want to release separately between both version, we maybe need to take more and more release time and release working.
So from my point of view, I don't think we should have two releases. I think we should just maintain one release and, promote any bug fixes or important fixes on the existing training operator, whether it is SDK or, like PyTorch or maybe CRD. But we don't really plan any significant changes to be introduced in the V1 version, right? I mean, any significant API changes. So I would say from my perspective, we should just cut the, 2.0 branch and start releasing, 2.0 release of training operator. And this will include the training operator V1 and training operator V2, right? All together.
So I think so. So separately release depending on if we consider if we want to sync release Kubeflow training operator release version and CLD version. So maybe so we can consider separately from release version and API version. So in other words, so we will provide bits version in the bits API version in the training operator B1 version. So after we duplicate and remove B1 API, we keep to use training operator B1 semantic. But so well, I'm not sure that is straightforward approach.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
yeah. Good.
One question that I have is, do we have a requirement of having both of them run together, right? If we don't have it, I think the easier process would be cut a different branch from the main and have releases primarily bug fixes for V1 version, right? From that, right? And that will only have fixes where we are going to support for next 1 year or whatever time period that we have, right? But
Yeah.
we focus on V2 on the master, that currently what we are doing now. So that will reduce the pain on bringing compatible changes or breaking V1 and V2, etc. Right? Like if we plan that way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yes, we can definitely cut the branch, right? And then cherry, or maybe not cherry pick, but just commit the changes to this branch, like 1.10 would be the final version, right?
Right. Which will have only bug fixes for the future, or like if people really want, people who are using current V1 and people want feature
I think
specifically for V1, right?
yeah, but I still think, Jonah, we should allow people to deploy two versions because some people want to try out, right? Especially who using the Kubeflow manifest, right? I don't see.
Isn't it better for Kubeflow manifest when V2 is released, we provide V2 as the primary one, not V1?
I think Kubeflow pipelines did the same, right? I mean, when they have the V2 version, they have V1 compatible mode, right? Some sort of this, right? But I don't see a problem for manifest to sync manifest from this 1.10 branch and the master branch, right? Which is going to make sure like the names are unique, right? And they're already unique because CRD is different, version of SDK is different, and the controllers are different, right?
Yeah, but it will look little odd to deploy when purely from a platform installation, because you will have two controllers running at the same time, right? Like
No, but they watch for different resources, right?
right. And I'm just saying about the after installation, someone who is purely from a Kubeflow platform, there'll be two controllers running, right? Say someone who is not using training operator. So they will see duplicate, or I won't say duplicate, but I'm just saying from a resource perspective, it looks little odd seeing two controllers running. I think they didn't even pipelines. They didn't have two different controllers, if I remember. I think it was the same controller, but again, they provided support for compatibility support for the previous one, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, probably. So I don't have a strong opinion here. I mean, we can install just one version, or we can install both version. This controller, I don't think it adds a lot of pain for Kubeflow distributions.
I
But
think if we can get some input from the current V1 production deployments, right? I think then that is the best way, in my opinion. If they actually want to, because they like, to me, the advantage that people get having two deployments running together. Like I don't see any advantage. If people really want, they should be able to do it. But again, by default, I think we should try the latest, right? Latest table. So when V2 is out, I think we should force people to start using that, but ensure that the V1 is not broken.
yeah, let's follow up. I think we need to decide what we will include in the manifest, and at the same time provide the instructions for users to use this version or that version, right? Yeah, then I don't have strong suggestions here, but
Yeah, yeah, so that sounds good. So So I think additional discussion point is Python SDK. So how we can release both V1 and V2 Python SDK version together, something like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for Python SDK, we still need to keep the versions because you can only release in PyPy when we have a version, right? So 2. something will be dedicated to 2.0, right? And the 1.10 will be dedicated to version 1. And it will be for some time, right? For like a year and a half, right? And I think, again, I like the idea to have a branch for 1.10 version. Maybe we can also have like 1.11 if it's required for us, right, in the future. But at the same time, in the master, we will do just development for 2.0 version, right?
Yeah, sounds good to me. So yeah, so really cutting the release specific version branch should work fine. Yeah.
It makes development really easy that way, because in the master we can focus purely on V2 while we can provide focus fixes on V1.
Yeah, and also it makes it easy for us, Yuki, to remove all this V2 naming, right, in the folders. So because we can remove everything from V1 from the master. Okay, let's think about it once we have some implementation ready. Like we still need to have some, sample examples ready, and then we can do this cleanup for the versions. Right.
Yeah, makes sense. One small question. So, regarding this V1 and V2, in the Kubeflow release, would you want to support the V1 or V2 version? Like, what would be the main in this page? Like, for example, like what would be the main component version that you would provide?
That's the confusion that we have now, Sailesh. So I think from working group, we'll get back to you probably like in the next one. We'll have some decision by that time.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So now one last thing. In every Kubeflow release, there is a Kubeflow roadmap where they give certain teams combining all the repositories. So from the AutoML and training operator perspective, like what do you think is the best, like 1 or 2 themes that we can put over here?
So let's
go ahead.
I just want to say, maybe Salih, you can give us some more time. We definitely have a few things for KDP training operator.
Okay.
Maybe 2 weeks we can discuss it again. What specific things you want to add?
Okay, got it. Sure. Yeah, that's all from my end. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, looks good. I think we have 5 more minutes. Maybe I can just a quick update what we have in the V2 discussion, right, in the roadmap. So I think we don't have a chance right now to discuss the 2024 roadmap for training operator and also 2025, right? Yeah, but I think eventually I have just, some raw items here around like, V2 migration. We need to have a lot of job set improvements. Like we already have one with PR for execution policy, but we need more for the job set, like Elastic support and other things. For SDK, we have some plans to introduce some changes, significant changes to SDK to again simplify the experience. The support for JAX, for LLM runtimes, and the API operator V2 also be in a training operator V2. So maybe next time we can have a conversation about it. Maybe some ideas from the community what we need to be focused on during this development in 2025. Yes, and for the V2, so we have some open PRs. I think the big PR that I want community to take a look is the one that Yuki created around runtimes. So just to give you, short overview, we want to have runtime configurable and the plugins also configurable. So users in the future will be able to register their own runtimes, not like only job set based. Like for example, maybe we have discussion to support Slurm as a runtime to execute training jobs, or maybe we can have a discussion to support other CRDs like Flux or anything else, right, that we might have in the future. So we want to make runtime configurable so platform engineers can register their own runtime within the training operator or or the controller. Yeah, so review this PR. I think after this, I guess the next step would be to implement some PyTorch functional, like basic functionality, right? And we also need to think about some simple, maybe LLM runtimes before our presentation, right? So for this, we need to have storage initializer, right? Trainer, I guess we need to reuse, and the PyTorch ability to build a PyTorch from the PyTorch training runtimes, right? Yuki, from your side, anything else you think we should be focused on from this list that we're missing?
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for sharing updates. So actually, so we share my Kubeflow training job pipeline framework brief design presentation in the 2248 PR descriptions and bits development issue. So if community guys have any feedbacks or something, so please let me know. Yeah. Additionally, so regarding to job set execution policy, actually, so I am trying to review the execution policy cap, and I am trying to negotiate Google batch team maintain the job set repository. It seems they do not have enough bandwidth to operate job set repository. So maybe approving execution policy job set feature will take a little bit more time. Yeah.
So do they, okay, it's about their bandwidth or it's about their implementation? Because, we can try to implement it by ourselves, right? Or they just need to time to review cap and implementation.
So you mean before we merge this cap PR, so we will start implementation phase, right?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, what do you think we should do? Because
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yes, indeed. So we can take the approach, but so the implementation PR never merged into the job set main branch because so cap does not cap PR is still under review phase.
Let me ask them on the Slack channel what we can do, right? And then let's see.
Yeah. So actually, so me and Aldo are trying to review this cap PR, and so we are seeking how we can support quota management compatibility or native Kubernetes features. So
Okay.
maybe so we can contact with Mihal, Google, because so he currently read bad team. Yeah, this is my recommendation.
Okay, but without this, we couldn't give the demo of tuning runtime, right? The LLM tuning, because we need to have a sequence of the jobs, right? Which will do initialization and training, the fine tuning.
Yeah, that's true. So as a backup plan, so we may be able to initialize the processes as a separate job. Yeah, I understand. So that is not either approach. But so I think we need to prepare backup plan. in the case of
Okay.
not ready. Yeah.
Yeah, let's think on this offline. And think about what we can do about it. Okay, I know we're over time. So any questions for our planning and what we're planning to do for the V2 or for the roadmap? I know that some folks ask me where they can help. So let me know if you have some free time to help us. We have some, tasks that we can assign, especially once we have this runtime framework being implemented. I can definitely let you know like where you can help. But there are a lot of things we need to work on. And once you have like this kind of template and like initial implementation, there'll be more things you can work on, which is simple tasks. All right. Any other
Yeah,
last? Yeah, go to.
Yeah, that's true. So as Andre said, so after we merged the first Kubeflow job pipeline framework PR, we will open the framework specific implementation to contributors who want to contribute in this project. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Thanks, everyone. Any last comments, questions? All right. Thank you so much for your time then. See you in 2 weeks. At the same time, please feel free to reach out to me for any follow-up questions. And thank you for your time. See you soon. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
See you.